if you say it out loud. Okay. Okay. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Fran. I hope we are truly in gallery view. I can see you and you can see me. Hopefully everybody can see both of us.
Yes, we haven't, the last few times we haven't been able to share the video of our recordings because there was none.
Well, that'll do it.
That'll do it. So, yeah, the last two episodes with the fabulous Will Chenault, it was just audio only. So here we are in our least favorite spot. It's called Zoom, and we're not going to talk about it, but we're doing this via Zoom. But you know what? Zoom is better than nothing because, again, the people don't know. They don't know that we're not sitting beside one another. Nor
right.
do they care.
We can pretend. We can pretend.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of Will Chenault, how amazing were those last two episodes? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yep. Again, I will say this over and over and over. I don't think as people, as just learners and people that are trying to grow, you can't get enough of those harder conversations from voices that you trust and respect and listen to. You just can't get enough of it, whether you've heard it one time or 1,000 times. There's always a place and a need for all the things that Will reminded us of, talked to us about, whether that was anxiety, depression, whatever. You're just like, thank you, Lord, for this voice, because I need to hear it again and again and again and again and again.
And for such a heavy, hard topic, he made it so hopeful and simple and easy to understand.
Yeah.
Which we needed. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well,
we are.
Yeah. Teach me like I'm 4. I say that all the time. Teach me like I'm a child.
Absolutely. Okay. So I was looking back at the calendar, which Easter is in 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. That's insane. When this comes out, we'll be within 3 weeks of Easter. But the last time you and I just purely rambled was the 1st of March. And that was that wild, chaotic week where you were like, show notes. Guess what? There are none. We've got nothing. Our life is crazy.
It's still crazy, Angela.
I feel like we could say that again. And I love that we have rambling just with us, all chaotic and crazy, March 1st. And then we have Will Chenault being very wise and Will again being very wise. And then here we are, people. We're back. March Madness continues. I am trying really hard not to look at the TV. As we're recording this, Kansas State and Kentucky are neck and neck. It is insane. We were talking before we recorded, like I had to walk away from that because I'm so worked up. And I've not watched either one of those teams all year. And I act like I have a kid out there. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you something right here, right now. I'm just going to put this on the line because I know there might be a Kentucky fan out there, but I don't know, Angela, you may not know or remember this, but back in the day, well, let's just go way back in the day. Way back in the day, I went to school at the University of Memphis. That's where I went to college. And my claim to fame is I was in a swim class with Penny Hardaway, who is the Memphis basketball coach. So Anthony Hardaway, that's his real name, Anthony Hardaway. He was a year or two younger than me. We were not the same age, but he and I took swim together. Well, he was just a basketball player. He wasn't anybody. He was brand new to Memphis. But I just remember thinking, you're the tallest human being in all the world. So I've always followed Memphis basketball. Always. So they got beat in all of this literal March Madness. And some point along the way at Memphis, John Calipari became the coach. And when he left to go to Kentucky, I've never liked him. However, today I'm kind of pulling for Kentucky. I tend to always pull for an SEC school, but Tennessee won, like all these, the Razorbacks. Oh my gosh.
Arkansas.
That was a wild game. I feel like every game right now is just nuts, out of control.
I love to cheer for the underdog when I don't know anything about anything. I always will cheer for Tennessee and whoever is not supposed to win after that. Yeah. And Kaylee Snyder was so mad at me because she had Kansas going all the way and Arkansas beat Kansas. And I was like, I'm sorry, Kaylee. I like saying woo pig. That's just fun.
Yeah, I know. This is fun, but you know what? Also kind of shifting gears, similar, but not March Madness, not have anything to do with basketball. we're recording this on the Sunday, the 19th, like literally just we're recording, we release this episode. I said to someone at church this morning, it's still March. It feels like March has been going on forever, forever and ever and ever and ever. Amen. It's never going to end, ever, ever.
It does. January felt that way. February flew by. March has been 8 months, and every kind of weather season.
Over it.
No.
I'm so over it. It's like 4 degrees feeling outside, but oh my gosh, Angela, I need to interject and say it's 4 degrees outside. But Dylan looked at me just a minute ago, and we will talk about Dylan's injury.
Yes.
That's come up in the month of March. Dylan looked at me a little bit ago and he goes, "Hey, you want to go to Freddy's?"
Dylan, always.
Yes. I want
Keep
to
my
go.
heart.
Yes. So I just thought, because it was the middle of the day, I thought, well, we're just going to get, ice cream or a milkshake or a sundae or something. So Chip said, yes, bring me back a chocolate shake. I said, okay. And so Dylan and I get in the car, we get up to the drive-through. Dylan says, you order first. Don't you love it when people do that? Because it's their way of like buying 12 more seconds because they're not 100% sure what to get. And so I ordered and I said, yes, I would like 1 chocolate shake. And I think she said, what size? And then I said small. And then I said, I want I'm not exactly right on this, but it was like a fudge delight brownie, something. And I think she asked what size. And I said, I think I said small. And then Dylan leans over and he goes, I want a 3-piece chicken tenders with fries and a Coke. And I was like, you just had lunch. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. But anyway, I get Chip's little shake. It's, if you're watching this on YouTube, I swear it was this big. It was like a kid's frosty size. And then my little fudge brownie delight dessert thing wasn't very big either. So it was just enough though. Anything more than that, it'd have been too much. But I thought of all the listeners when we went to Freddy's, I should have taken a picture and shared it in stories, but I didn't.
We really should get an endorsement by Freddy's. That's what Ted Cluck would say.
Yeah, we should. It was delicious. It was so good. Anyway.
Well, March has been 9,000 years, but baseball is back, Fran.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can be happy. Did y'all watch the USA win with that big grand slam last night?
Yes, we have watched.
Dylan
has watched it. I haven't asked him because in the middle of a game like that, if I ask this kind of question that I'm about to ask, he looks at me like, what are you doing right now? So
He's a professional.
Just like, so I was going to ask, and I'm asking you, Angela. I didn't ask him because it was intense.
Right.
So I said, I want to know, like, have we done this every year or is this brand new?
Yeah, it's not every year. I don't know. I think it may be every 4 years. There's been a lot of commentary about why don't we do it more often? But if we did it more often, it wouldn't have the same appeal. But I tell you what, when the USA was down, and then was it Trey Turner that hit that big grand slam? It's just like, what is happening? The excitement and the passion, and everybody was just so into it. And I thought, you know what? It may be 5 degrees outside, but baseball is back and we're excited, and springtime's coming.
Oh, listen, in the world of college baseball.
Yes, tell us about Dylan.
Well, it gets warm when the season's over because we have to start, because you got to go through the semester. It's like you can't go into summer. You've got to end before school ends. And so we start so dang early. We start February 1st, basically. So we've endured so much cold weather. Okay. So Dylan's a senior. This is his 4th year to pitch at Union.
It's your last year to have a baseball player.
I know. So this is why this was extra, a little scarier maybe. But Dylan's a pitcher. I've also had my middle child, Tyler. He played as well. He was a position player. He either played second or short. So for those of you all that care, and a lot of you probably don't, here's the difference as a mom when your child is playing the same sport, just different positions. So Tyler being a position player, it was pretty common for him to start. And so I had so many opportunities to watch him play. Dylan being a pitcher, and he's not a starter. He's more of a reliever. He comes in very tight situations where they need to get out. It's just a different scenario. So I'm not ever sure when he's going to pitch. And so anyway, in college, you play on the weekends, and then you have a midweek game that you play on Tuesday night. So this past Tuesday, we had a midweek game, and it was at home, and that was when I had leadership union. So I had leadership union. We'll talk about that for just a second. I've got 2 sentences to say about that. And then I ran up to the baseball field, and Chip had texted me and said, Dylan's warming up in the bullpen. So I was like, okay, if Dylan's warming up, 98% of the time he's going in. So I got there just in time. When I was parking, he was going out of the bullpen to the mound. So I literally I wasn't running, but I was walking really fast. And so I stand up there, and he got 1 out, he got 2 outs. The third or fourth batter, he may have walked somebody. I can't remember. He'd kill me. He doesn't listen anyway to this podcast, but I never know the scenarios. They can remember every dang thing, like all the pitches, all the outs, everything. And I'm like, I think there was 2 out. I don't know. Anyway, it was a batter with there was 2 outs, and the guy hit a line drive, and it came right back to the pitcher, right back to his leg, and just flew off his leg. And Dylan doesn't fall to the ground, but he is hurt. And I was like, so you just stand there. I've had boys, I've watched lots of injuries over the years. I know not to react. I know just to wait patiently and let everybody do their.
That is hard to do. I remember Tyler breaking his collarbone in football. Like you've got nerves of steel by design. I would be that parent that got dragged off the field and embarrassed my kid for going, that's my baby. I need to know what's happening.
Have you seen the mother that tore her glasses up as her son lost his wrestling match? Oh, Angela, I've got to send this to you.
That would be me.
You're either that mom who he loses the match, and she takes her glasses off, and she's crumbling them, and she's so mad. And I was like, that's not what you don't do that right there. You don't do that. No. And I don't know if it's having all boys and just being exposed to sports all these years and seeing, I feel like everything under the sun, whether it was my own kid or somebody else's kid, like it just doesn't rattle me until it's supposed to rattle me. I mean, you've heard me tell stories about things with my other kids, AKA Tyler, that should send me over the edge. And I just have this sense of, okay, this is our reality. What do we do?
Mm-hmm. You stay.
If there's a crisis, you want me in your presence, because I know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So anyway, all that to say, when I see the trainer put him on the cart to take him to the field house, I was like, okay, the other pitcher, thankfully there was another pitcher warming up, and Dylan's done. And so Chip and I walked into the field house, and I made it known. Like I needed to tell somebody. The only reason why I'm coming in here is because it's so dang cold. So I'm not going in the training room. I'm just coming inside this field house because it's cold. And so Chip can go in like a dad. I know that I follow his lead too, because Chip was an athlete. Like there's just things, unspoken rules and stuff.
Protocol.
So if he went in, I was like, well, I'm going in, but I just need y'all to know the mom is not going in the training room. I'm just coming inside because it's cold.
You're going to have to teach me all this. I don't know anything.
Yeah. You underreact instead of overreact if you've got boys growing up in sports. And so anyway, the trainer says, I really would like for it to get x-rayed. Long story short, we get it x-rayed the next morning, and nothing is broken, but he's got a deep bone bruise. And it takes several weeks. It's the kind of thing that you feel like it's not getting any better. And is there something wrong? You don't put him in a boot. You don't do anything. You just limp along, and it looks gross, and it just has to heal. So in that moment, when all of that was happening, I was also thinking, if this is broken, we're done. All these years, he started playing when he was 5. He's 22 years old. All of that is over in the blink of an eye. And I knew that in the back of my mind, that was a real possibility. And so anyway, I feel like, I mean, the season will end, mid-April to the end of April. And so I just told one of the coaches last week, I just said, I just want one more time. I just want to see him pitch one more time. And that's the difference in a pitcher versus a position player. It's so much fewer times that you get to see them play. But anyway, we're on the road to recovery with therapy and all the things. So that's just part of it. But anyway, March Madness.
Thank God nothing's broken.
Yeah.
And I can tell you what not to do. And I'm not going to name this player because it would embarrass her. And I'm not a trainer. Let me give a disclaimer for that. One of our volleyball players had a very deep bruise, to the point that I was across the gym and upstairs and made a photo of the team on the bench, and the bruise was visible in that horribly taken photo. It was awful. But somebody suggests to her that they have heard that if you rub onions on the bruise, it goes away.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to go with that old wives' tale.
Well, let me tell you, we were desperate because this girl was somebody we cannot live without. And as we talked about on the podcast, that volleyball team went all the way to the finals, and we had to have her out there, and she had to be out there. And so at one point there were onions rubbed all over this girl's foot and ankle. And we still laugh about it because the trainer's wife had come to help in some kind of way. And she's such a sweet, quiet, passive person outside of volleyball, where she'll just, shove the ball down your throat. But she was having to explain to people, I really don't naturally smell this bad. This is an onion that somebody rubbed on my foot.
Listen, I'm not opposed. I will Google this when we're done and just see if it starts, and it could be that you've got to do it at the beginning of the injury, not, 2 weeks in, but as a pitcher, it's his right leg. So there's a lot of force coming down. I mean, just like with volleyball, nothing is like passive. It's not like you're just standing there.
Right.
So it's just going to hurt. But if there's nothing broken, then you know what? I'll try some onions. I don't know. We'll Google it and come back and give y'all an update.
That's right. That's right. Goodness gracious. I'm not confirming or denying that this should be tried out, but that's my limited. We've got a really great story with her. We were just laughing about that yesterday. You had spring break. I'm trying to think of what else happened. Like, we have not talked. We're almost in the 3rd week of March. We've got to catch up on some things.
Our spring break was so early before anybody's. Ours was that first week of March. Yours was the next week. I didn't do anything for spring break. I did go to a Grizzlies game with Clay, and I did some other stuff, but not anything. I didn't go on a trip or anything. But anyway, you went somewhere super fun. Your favorite place in all the land.
We went somewhere super fun. And leading up to that, Kaylee's spring break, she had been at the beach, but came back a few days early so she could come here for the last few days of her break. But we left for a trip because Cole's break was the next week. And the hardest thing probably today, the only thing harder was leaving her that first initial freshman move-in day. But when I had to leave her at my house on a Saturday morning, and all the rest of us were going to Disney World, I felt like the most abusive mom. I didn't want to leave her. The timing was terrible. It was horrible. I cried. It was so sad. But I have an Aunt Sylvia who is 70 years old and has never, ever, ever been to Disney World. She is the biggest kid I know. It was all of her life. She has said, one day I really want to go. And my sister and I just said, if we don't do it now, it's never going to happen. We have got to make this a priority. So just imagine we have, now let me back up and say, this is the woman who my whole entire life, I spent almost every weekend at her house. She would let us stay up past our bedtime. She would let us have all the popcorn we could eat. We could have Dr. Pepper up until midnight. Like, she was the most fun, still is the most fun person I've ever known in my life. And her husband, my Uncle Joe, their 50th wedding anniversary would have been Friday, the day that we came home. He died last year. And the only time I've ever been asked to give a eulogy was at his funeral. I think I talked about that on the podcast last year. He died a year ago. So Friday when we came home was St. Patrick's Day, that was her 50th anniversary. It was the second anniversary of my dad's death, and my dad's her younger brother. And then their sister Raina's husband, who also died several years ago, his birthday was that weekend. So our family just, we have this running joke that we're competing with the Kennedys for like all the tragedy. It's not funny, but you have to find humor in hard situations.
Hey,
So
let me say this. I don't know what I wish I remembered the full context of this, but I'm glad you're aware of the month of March, because our dear friend Angela Cottrell I remember her telling me once that she has something similar in a month that is always significant that month. It's so not that she anticipates it being terrible by any means. It's just more of like, what is this? Why is this? Just that there's this significant time on the calendar where there tends to be heartache or trouble or difficulty. And I just remember being in a conversation with her thinking, I think that's fascinating. Does it mean anything? I don't know. But I think when you're aware of it, it just makes it really interesting. Okay, carry on.
no, I think so too. And I've learned so much about mindset. We talk about mindset all the time on this podcast. And my Aunt Raina and my Aunt Sylvia, my Aunt Raina has buried her only child and her only husband. My Aunt Sylvia is, just talked about her, just shy of her 50th anniversary, buries her husband. They've been together most of her life. And they are two, I was telling somebody, I don't recall ever having an encounter with either one of them where I did not leave feeling encouraged. They never are negative. Sometimes I will say something and catch myself complaining or being negative in their presence. And then I think, shame on me. They have been through so much worse. And here I am complaining over a problem they would love to have. And they have so much grace and so much just joy in spite of, not that they're in denial, not that, you can't live in la la land, but at the same time,
peace. They have so much peace.
They do. Well, and this is where it comes from, and they'll tell you, they know that they are created by God on purpose for a purpose. And when their time's up, their time's up. But until, as long as they're here, they don't want to miss what God has for them. And oh my goodness, I just want to live like that. Right. And Raina is coming on the podcast.
Yes, she is.
We're going to get her scheduled, and she's got a whole fascinating message just that will really encourage everybody. But okay, so my Aunt Sylvia has not been on an airplane since high school, that I'm like, never has gone anywhere. She has lived the most simple, humble, modest life. Oh, we have a 70-year-old who's the biggest kid I know, and we have 3-year-old Atlas. And everybody in between. So we have my sister, we have my sister and my 2 nephews who are 15, and I think Emmett's 12. And then we have my son Cole, and we have Lydia and Atlas and Carl and Aunt Sylvia, and we have a party of 9. And it is just party, wow. But here we go. It is wild. But and then for people who have been to Disney, you will appreciate this. When we were headed there, I said, what's your comfort level? What do you want to ride? What do you want to do? Is there anything you just know you don't want to do? And she was like, really, I'm okay with anything. I just don't want to go upside down. And I said, not a problem. Rock and roller coaster is down for refurbishment. That's not even an option. You'll be fine. So in a total lapse of judgment, and I mean a lapse of judgment like I don't know that I've ever had before, I remembered.
And hang on, everybody. Just hang on a minute. Everyone needs to know that I don't know how many times you've been to Disney, but you are an expert pro. So for you to say there was a lapse of judgment, like your brain just stopped for a second. It wouldn't be like me having a lapse of judgment, because I'm just like, I'm not exactly sure. It'll be fine. But you just forgot something significant.
I just missed it. Now, the lawyer in me wants to note for the record that we had experienced a 2-hour time change, because not only did we have daylight savings time, but we also went from Central Time to Eastern Time. So when we get up that first morning to go to the parks, it is feeling like it's 8 o'clock, but it's really 6 o'clock. And that whole time change is like some kind of weird sorcery. I don't know what it does to us, but it makes everybody lose their minds.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to Epcot, and I remember telling her, there's a brand new ride. It's called Guardians of the Galaxy. I think you'll love it. It is very smooth and it does not go upside down.
Okay.
Both of those things are true. However,
Uh-huh.
for a 70-year-old woman who has never done anything like this before, the whole time we were on this ride, I didn't even enjoy it because I was thinking, what have I done? I'm going to kill her on the first day.
Attack. She's going to have a heart attack,
She's
Angela.
going to have a heart attack. And how will I explain this to her children? That's all I could think of. But when I tell you she's got the mindset that all of us should aim for, we get off the ride, and after she had to sit down for a minute,
Yeah.
and take some medication or what, I don't know what she had to do. It was, I went and hid in the bathroom. I was so ashamed of myself. But when she finally was okay again, she said, no, it was fine. I love it here. I'm just so glad that I can do things like that and live to tell about it.
Oh.
I thought, if that's not the most, but like, she never once said, how dare you? I kept saying, I have no credibility. I didn't even recommend It's a Small World after that. I was like, do not take my word for anything. I cannot be trusted. Do not trust my judgment. So
was it because it was new and you weren't
yes,
familiar with it? Like you truly were not familiar.
I'd ridden it 2 or 3 times.
Oh, okay.
I really think I just went stupid. I really don't have an excuse, but everything, we did not let her ride Expedition Everest. She did love Slinky Dog and she loved Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Atlas on the Slinky Dog roller coaster was so mad. The pictures are so cute because Cole was so protective and like had his arms across Atlas, like, and his body slumped over him because he knew Atlas was upset. And Atlas just did not like it at all. But Sylvia did. And Atlas was fine.
I think the fact that, yeah, little kids you get, like that makes sense. It's like when you see Santa Claus for the first time, you either love him or you're terrified and you're screaming. You don't know why you're scared. You're just scared because you're scared. But the fact that she's 70 and she knows, like she kind of knows, even though she may not have ever been on that ride before, she kind of knows what to expect, sort of. But the fact that she's doing that, oh my gosh, yes, we should all want to live life like Aunt Sylvia.
And the weather was very mild and wonderful up until the last day. And the last day it was, I'd kill to go back to this, but it was like, 78 degrees and the sun was really shiny and hot and not many clouds. And I said, oh gosh, I hate it so hot today. And she said, oh, I think it's wonderful. I would hate to leave here and not have any sun. We're going to have a great day. And then the last morning, this was the other bad part of the trip. The very last morning, our departure day, the only direct flight was at 6 a.m.
Of course, they want y'all out of there. They want to get people out of Orlando, get on the plane and get the heck out of here.
They wanted us gone. So we had to be picked up from our rental house at 3:15 a.m.
It's terrible. It's the worst.
And that was the day that was her anniversary and the anniversary of my dad's death. So we're standing there, we're like zombies. It's 3:15. We're walking to the van that came to pick us up. And I hugged her and I said, happy anniversary. And she hugged me back and she said, remember that we're strong and we're going to be okay. And I just thought, you know what? We are. We just stick together and that's just what we do. But she and Raina are the steel magnolias in our family. I cannot, my mom has been gone 25 years, which is absolutely insane. I have to do that math over and over in my head because it doesn't even sound right. But what a gift those two have been. They have absolutely raised us. And
would Raina go to Disney World? How old is Raina? That is not a question.
Raina was
older or younger?
She's younger, and Raina was invited and had to work, and I don't think she was sad about that. Raina was very sweetly supportive of us taking Aunt Sylvia to Disney World, but Raina did not seem too upset about missing out. So
Listen, I know you've got pictures, but people have got to see. They've got to see Sylvia at 70 in Disney World.
uh-huh.
I want to be her when I grow up.
When she and Mickey Mouse embraced, I
Mm.
thought, this is it. I could die a happy woman. She has looked Mickey in the eyes and hugged him.
Listen, I know that you've gone all the time. I know you've been 17 million times, but I think part of the magic with Disney is, and I don't know if you outgrow this. I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about like how many times you've been, but I told you that I've only been maybe 3 times, and every time I've gone, the minute I step into Magic Kingdom and I see the castle, I get choked up because it immediately, you just fall into this place, this mindset, this little world that's just so magical. And every time I say this, I will say with like a lump in my throat, it really is the happiest place on earth. And I don't know if they're pumping stuff through the things that make us feel certain ways. I don't know, but it's just so beautiful and sweet. And so when she hugs Mickey, it's like it just brings out this little child in you that you're like, this is awesome.
Well, and they have a replica of the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. I
Mhm.
had no idea that was her favorite movie as a child. So when
Oh,
she walked through that treehouse, which is something that my kids are just like, okay, so what? We've done that before. She was so just enamored with the fact that she could walk through the actual treehouse.
Mm.
Anyway, it was just sweet and fun.
happy spring break to y'all. That's the best right there.
Right. And I do get to go see Kaylee next weekend for Mom's Weekend. So I feel like I'm redeeming that. We have to.
Kaylee got to do something fun too, so she's okay.
She did. And for Mom's Weekend, one of the activities we're doing is painting, which gives me level 10 anxiety. As we've talked about, even though Robin says we can be creative, I'm just already trying to fit. My mother-in-law is also going. So I'm thinking, Kaylee, you and Nana can do the painting and I'll just tell you how pretty it looks.
I'm gonna be your cheerleader.
I
That's
will
what I'm gonna
encourage you.
Yeah, that's fun though. Yay for spring break. But let's go back to what we said, but in the beginning of all this, it's still March.
It is. It is. And it's crazy. I really regret kind of that we couldn't record for the podcast, the boxer exchange that you and I had the day before we left for the trip because
Remember, did we say something funny?
it was chaos. It was such chaos because you know that I never even think about packing until 30
Oh,
minutes before I
listen,
leave.
this is what you're doing. That's right. It's coming back to me. Okay, let me tell the people, let me refresh everybody's memory. This is a running joke, and this part 2 is the new running joke. The
Mhm.
number 1 running joke with Angela is always, let me set the stage for you. She lives 700 miles outside of town. So she lives literally out in the country, and it takes her a minute just to get like into town before she's even ever got to get to her destination. So it's just far. It's just out there. So we'll be boxering back and forth, and you're like, well, it's 7:45 and I'm on my way to work. And Angela's just finished her workout and she's got to get ready to be somewhere in court in another town at 8:30. And I'm like, honey, goodbye. And you need to start your dang day right now. How do you do this? And then the other part of that's always a running joke, always. But now it's when you go out of town, because you're going to be gone for a week, you work so hard the week you're going out before you go out of town. And so your days are just wild. And let's just remember that you don't have a regular kind of job, so to speak. You're dealing with hard, complex, very difficult scenarios, people, situations, all of that. So your days are very full of a lot of things and they're very long. And at like 6 o'clock the night before you've got to leave, you're like not even thinking about packing. Oh yeah, we're going out of town tomorrow. I've got to go to the grocery. I've got to do this, or I've got to schedule this. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Can I be your personal assistant?
Please. I feel like I don't have a middle gear. I feel like I'm either wide open at work or I'm totally off.
Yeah.
Relaxed.
So just so that y'all know, the week that this releases, my guess is that Angela's going to have a wild week because you've been out of the office for a week, that you're back to 120,000 miles per hour.
It's just the reality. So
That's
somehow I thrive in the chaos.
Yeah, that's how you go. Meanwhile, I'm over here. I do want to say this. We got to say something spiritual.
Yes, we're gonna be we've been ridiculous. It's time to be spiritual and serious for a
It's
minute.
time to be serious. So I feel like I have been a dang broken record, and Angela has heard me say so much of it just being a hard season and just being really overwhelmed, really tired, sometimes frustrated, often frustrated. Just asking the Lord, what is it that you're trying to teach me in this season? And I'm not one to complain. It's very difficult for me to open up and start saying a lot of things because for two reasons. One, it's just not my human nature. The other part of it is I feel a little guilty for dragging people into that. And then thirdly, I'm like, I don't know where the benefit of this is, but I also know when I'm doing that with you that there's a great wisdom. You're not, you will get in it for a minute with me and kind of help start me up and get me worked up, but that doesn't last but a half a second. And then you're giving me such wisdom. And so I deeply appreciate that. But this morning, at Fellowship University, y'all know this is a 3-year commitment that Angela and I are in, and we're in year 2. And that this week we're in the book of Hebrews. Did I do my homework? No, because I'm just tired. I don't have the mental capacity right now for things. And I hate that. And it's like, is that an excuse or what? I don't know. But I really do feel like I'm just struggling. I'm just struggling. And so we were talking about Hebrews this morning, and we were just pulling it in on a very practical daily level. And so here's my just very kind reminder to anybody that is in a difficult season. Hebrews reminds us that Christ is supreme, that Jesus is the authority over everything. He is good. He is for us. The infamous by faith chapter in chapter 11, by faith, Abraham, by faith, all those people, they were sinners. They were broken. They were just as messed up as the next person. Rahab is listed in that list of people, and the Lord shows up every time, and he works with us. We just have to lean in, as you reminded me yesterday, just lean into the anxiety, the unknown, the frustration, whatever the feeling is that I'm feeling, lean into that. Don't be afraid of it. It's there for a reason. And maybe just to remind me that, okay, Fran, here we go. Me and you, this is the Lord, speaking to me. Here we go. Trust me in this. And we just had sweet conversation this morning of just remembering who God is. In one of the chapters, maybe chapter 6, there's several verses that remind us of who God is. And I think it's in verse 10 of chapter 6. We're reminded that God is creator, that he created the heavens and the earth. And even when I am overwhelmed, stressed, tired, frustrated, feeling all those things, I can remember that. I can get my mind wrapped around Genesis 1. Even when it seems absurd that he opened up his mouth and spoke things into creation. For whatever reason, my brain likes that thought, that those passages. I get settled back in there and I'm like, okay, you did that, then you can do all manner of things for me. And I just have to take a deep breath and rest in the chaos, in this literal March Madness. That February was March Madness, January was March Madness. All the months have felt like madness for me in a certain area. And it's okay. It's going to be okay. I have to go back to the simple promises and scriptural truth that is hidden in my heart even if all I can come up with is John 3:16 or Proverbs 3:5 and 6, whatever it is, I'm going to hold on to that and it's all going to be okay.
Amen.
Yeah.
That actually goes along perfectly with something that I wanted to bring up. There is a study, there's a Barna study that came out that really broke my heart when I read it, but there's also practical hope for all of us and something important that we can take away from it. But there's a new study that came out that said only 11% of Christians read their Bibles every day. Think about that for a minute. It's no wonder only 4% of us have a biblical worldview, according to a recent Barna study. Biblical worldviews are much closer to extinction after the pandemic lockdown.
Oh, wow.
And you would think from the outside looking in that we're always, I'm so busy, I don't have time. Well, we had plenty of time. But on the other side of that, things statistically appear to be worse instead of better. But there was a recommendation, and I wish I knew who to credit this to, but there was an author that shared this on Instagram and said, I have a simple hack for all of us. She said, think about how many Bibles you have in your house. And people were all in the comments going, you know what? I have 5 Bibles. I have a whole shelf in my office of Bibles. I can promise y'all, if I walk in my office with all the books that I have, there are Bibles just sitting there. And she said, here's the hack or the challenge for all of us. Take those Bibles and place them around your house and leave them open. So if you have one open on your coffee table, if you have one open on your laundry room counter, if you have one open on your kitchen counter, she said, when I leave it open, I'm more likely to actually look at a verse while I'm standing there doing whatever it is I'm doing. Leave one in your car, leave one at work. But that is something so simple that probably everybody listening could do. And she said, it's so easy to scroll through our phone because it's always in our hand. And it's the same for Bibles. If we just have that Bible accessible, open, right there in plain view. She tried it. She said, I'm amazed at how many times I've just naturally walked over there to it. And then the other thing she said is to have accountability friends. And this is kind of the basis of how the podcast got started. Find somebody to ask you questions. You know, what are you reading? What's the Lord teaching you? Share what you're learning. You know, Fran, we have times where we do that really well. We have times where we don't, but that's something just always to keep in mind. And then the third thing she said, is she said, I have a very simple prayer that I pray when I get in these funky situations, and God always answers. But she said, just ask God for the desire to seek him daily, and he always honors that prayer.
Yeah.
So,
You know, part of what we talked about this morning was we hear so much like we need to do this, we should do this, and then we all feel guilty, or we hit seasons where we feel guilty for not doing those things you just said, those very basic, simple things. But somewhere, I know you've talked about this before, and I don't know exactly how you said it, but that's why when you're in a good season, when you're in a healthier season, there's not maybe as much challenges happening in your life. And we all know what that is, what that feels like when you're in that moment, even if it's just for a couple of weeks, it's not maybe something that's very long. But when you are in those seasons, it's so important to dig into the word and to have healthy conversation and accountability, so that when you do hit these dry seasons, these harder seasons, these more challenging seasons, you've got that just some basic things to hold on to, even if it is just, God, you are good.
that's right. Store it up.
That's right. We're going to store it up because we're going to need it later. And I need you to store it up so that you can give it to me now and all these months.
We can't just get each other worked up. We have to follow that up with something healthy and meaningful.
I like it. I'll confess. I like it when you get me worked up just a little bit, because it always makes me laugh. But I know
never repeat some of the horrible things I've said.
No.
But it makes you laugh. It gets it out of your system. And then I hit you with the 1-2 punch. I'm like, and here's what Jesus said.
That's right. And so I know that, though. I know that about you, and I know that about us. So I don't feel like I'm being a 13-year-old, like let me just tell you, Angela, and you just get all worked up and fired up too. And then we've just had this horrible conversation, but I'm thankful. I think if you don't have a person or community of people that you can be so honest with, then you just start praying now that the Lord will give you at least one person, because it makes all the difference in the world. I would not be in a sane, healthy-ish state if I didn't have you pulling me back down to the ground when I want to, swing punches.
Back at you. I prayed for this friendship, and look how God answered.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Well, this was good. This was fun.
Yeah.
March Madness.
March Madness. Listen, it's still happening, y'all. So, hey, Angela, let's tell them real quick. We've got another fun recording coming up. We're not going to tell you with who, but I think this, I don't want to call it a series because that sounds like
a special correspondent.
Oh, there you go. We have a special correspondent that's going to join our show, hopefully several times a year, at least maybe 3-4 times a year.
Somebody that we will all love asking and learning from. Like, this is that kind of person that if you could just call her all the time and say, what do you think about this?
Yes.
And she'll tell you.
It's going to be fun. So that's the next episode. So anyway, this is fun. Thanks everybody for listening to this perfect rambling through everyday life with Fran and Angela. So we'll see you next time. Y'all have a super great week. We sure do love you.
Bye, everybody.